Live from New York City, it's the Gary Null Show. And now, your host, Gary Null.
Hi, I'm Gary Null. Nice to have you with us today. We begin our program always with the latest on health and healing. All the information comes from quality research centers and is published in the National Library's peer review system. So it's the finest quality information. Now, here's the irony. If you're looking for what will allow you to live a longer and healthier life, orthodox scientists have provided the solutions. And yet they don't share this. We don't adapt this. And that's a separate issue, but I'll give you an example. What's one of the reasons that we die prematurely, die of a heart attack, or just drop dead of a stroke? Because we didn't pay attention to inflammatory markers in our blood, like C-reactive protein, homocysteine, fibrinogen, triglycerides, LDL cholesterol. These are the silent killers because when they're elevated, you have a greater risk of dying instantly. And yet there are no signals. It's not like, oh, okay, I've got a symptom. I better get my homocysteine checked. So that's why I'm asking people, get a blood chemistry, inflammatory blood chemistry and hormone chemistry done twice a year. All right. And if you're overweight or diabetic, then have it done about 4 times a year. So at least you know where you're at. Now, the good news is that if your homocysteine level is elevated, and by the way, if it gets up around 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, shouldn't be there, you're almost doubling or tripling your opportunity for a heart attack or stroke. When they do an autopsy, they'll tell you that the person died of what? Heart attack, stroke. What they don't tell you is why. Now, they can see that a person's overweight or obese, but they don't know if the person smoked or drank alcohol or ate too much sugar or fast foods. They don't know that. And that's never on the medical report. It's just cause of death, unless there's a secondary cause. Our lifestyle is the number one cause of dying prematurely and aging prematurely. Now, fish oil and vitamin B12 have been shown in this study out of the Zhejiang University in China to lower the risk of homocysteine. By the way, I would add on to that vitamin B6, all right? Vitamin C and folic acid also help lower your homocysteine level. And if you take a multiple vitamin every day and it has the folic acid, B12, B6 in it, and B1 and vitamin C, you're going to have a much better chance of having a lower homocysteine level. The article was published in the Asia Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition. And what they found was when you have B12 and fish oil, you're going to have a lower C-reactive protein and homocysteine and ferritin level, all of which increase your risk of cardiovascular disease. And so why not, if you could do something that simple, that inexpensive, that natural, no side effects, could save your life. Something else that's important for you, according to Zhejiang University Medical Sciences, is cinnamon. What does cinnamon do? It improves memory and learning. Yes, cinnamon, the well-known aromatic spice that maybe many of us use, I use it in smoothies, is derived from the inner bark of the cinnamomum trees. These are evergreen trees found in the Himalayas and other mountain areas, as well as in the rainforest and other forests of southern China, India, and Southeast Asia. So in addition to its unique flavor, cinnamon would have the benefit, if you used it, of being able to help turn off inflammation. It's an antioxidant that has anti-cancer properties. Yeah, it also helps boost your immune system. And some studies have shown that it's the bioactive compounds can boost brain function and hence improve your memory and learning. So I suggest that what we do is start using more cinnamon. And this was shown in Nutritional Neuroscience, peer-reviewed journal. So By the way, there are over 2,600 studies in the different databases that looked at cinnamon. So it's something that's been well studied. It's just not used very often. I mean, think of it. Most people, maybe they'll use some allspice and some cinnamon around Thanksgiving or Christmas time in some of the pumpkin pies, but otherwise, most people don't use it. Now, there was a very famous football player back in the 1970s, big guy, and he used hormones. That's how he got his big muscles. And he also had brain cancer. And he was on Johnny Carson's some shows talking about it. Since that time, we've done a lot more research showing that the long-term use of hormonal substances in the body can increase our risk of different diseases. Well, according to the University of Southern Denmark, hormonal contraceptives, a different use, is associated with an increased risk of brain tumors. Taking a hormone contraceptive for at least 5 years is associated with an increase in a young woman's risk of developing a rare tumor, glioma of the brain. And so this project looked at women 15 to 49 years of age and was published in the British Journal of Clinical Pharmacology. In lay language, hormonal contraceptives, including oral contraceptives, contain female sex hormones and are widely used for women of all ages all over the world. And while only a little is known about the cause of glioma and other brain tumors, there's evidence that female sex hormones may increase the risk of some types of cancer. So just letting you know, try other forms, other barrier forms of contraception, but just be aware there's a danger in using that particular type of hormone. All right. Also, from the University of Texas Medical Branch, a blend of soy and dairy proteins promotes muscle protein synthesis when consumed after exercise. This was published in the Journal of Nutrition, and it demonstrates the benefits of consuming a protein blend of muscle protein synthesis after exercise. This study is the first of its kind conducted by the research at the University of Texas Medical Branch and utilizes the protein from soy, whey, and casein consumed after an acute bout of resistance exercise. So if you want to get bigger muscles, that would be beneficial. These proteins have complementary amino acid profiles and different digestive rates. And my concern is that I've also seen people who've used those kind of proteins, the whey powder, and end up with all kinds of problems. For example, puffiness under the eyes, runny nose, lots of phlegm being spit up during the day because their body's allergic to the dairy. So the question is, could you do a better way? And I would say yes, using a blend of hemp protein, the amino acids in hemp powder, and soy, and brown rice. And I found it works just fine. And I've helped tens of thousands of athletes as a coach in the Natural Living, Running, and Walking Club since 1975. And it doesn't matter what their body is when they come in, they get the muscles. That's just one of the things we do. Now, let's just say that you want an alternative to Prozac. All right? There are alternatives. One is 5-HTP, otherwise known as 5-hydroxytryptophan. And it is less well known as a cousin of serotonin, one of the most important brain neurotransmitters. And L-tryptophan is first converted to 5-HTP in nerve cells by a vitamin B3 dependent enzyme. In any case, it's not toxic and it works. All right. There on my back behind me is my bird. She comes up when I'm sitting at my desk. And so that's Sweetie, 22 years old. Now, so that we do have alternatives to Prozac, which I never recommend anyone taking. And it impacts the serotonin in our body. Feel more calm, at ease. Also, from Columbia University Irvine Medical Center comes a study about Food swamps may be sending older adults to an earlier grave. And we know it's no secret that poor access to healthy food can lead people making unhealthy dieting choices. With that in mind, a new study finds adults over 50 who live in so-called food swamps are more likely to suffer a life-threatening stroke. Simply put, areas where fast food chains and convenience stores selling unhealthy snacks are everywhere, and that could be sending many older adults to an earlier grave. Despite major advances in stroke care, stroke continues to be a significant problem, and some people will remain at risk despite optimal medical treatment because they're not changing the diet. You can have all the medications you want once something happens, but why not just stop it? We are highly addicted to junk food. It's not easy for most people to give it up because it satisfies many of their tastes. Salty and crunchy, sweet and soft, fills you up, and is inexpensive. All the reasons a lot of people want it. It's fast. Make one phone call and you've got it. But you also have obesity, cardiovascular disease, and you have increased risk of stroke and inflammatory conditions because of that same food. That's the latest on health and healing. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to deal with a lot of important issues. I mean, a lot of interesting stuff. Every day I try to make sure that what I'm sharing with the audience, they've not heard before. By the way, you can watch this segment because this segment I stream live on Zoom. And also go to PRN.Live and just look at all the outstanding hosts that we have and see if there are not some programs there that you'd find of interest. Also, you can go to GaryNull.com and look at all the articles I published. I'm closing in on 1,000 articles. And these are not little simple articles. These are really in-depth on a topic, and films as well. Back in a moment. Please stay with us.
Are you tired of closed-minded programming? Well, look no further than PRN.Live, the home for progressive voices.